It's time for the lead block.
Lead block.
Lead block.
Thanks, Kyle and Peter and Nate Burleson. Let's start in Dallas, guys. After their blowout loss on Monday night, things got even worse for the Cowboys. Jane Slater fills us in.
Thanks, Kay. Well, on Tuesday, following yet another disappointing loss, this time in prime time to the Arizona Cardinals, this team now 6 games into the season and a 2-4 record, having a little bit of frustration set in and a disconnect as it relates to the coaching staff. I reported on Tuesday, quote, players feeling like the coaches were unprepared, don't teach, can't adjust on the fly, and they aren't good coaches. Head coach Mike McCarthy pressed on that on Tuesday night, had this to say.
When you hit a part of your season or any challenge where there is negativity out there, you know, where it comes from and who it comes from. I mean, that's something that, you know, I've never chased, but I think you do have to recognize it. I've always stated this to every team that I've coached. I think it's important to handle things as men.
McCarthy also was asked if this team buys into Mike Nolan's defense specifically. He said, quote, definitely. It's a change. Frankly, we're in the infant stages of it. That's part of these first-year challenges. I then asked if they tried to reinvent the wheel too soon with a new staff and a condensed training camp. And to that, he said they actually had. They simplified the playbook after the second game. Now, some other news, this one continuing the theme that they're seeing on the offensive line. That backup left tackle they had in there, Brandon Knight, well, he sustained an injury to his knee, had surgery on Tuesday, although I'm told nothing is torn and the surgery is considered minor. The hope is that he'll miss 1 to 2 weeks. Okay?
Thank you so much. Thanks for putting on the offensive line, Jane. It's a huge, huge game changer over the past couple of seasons from when they were so dominant a couple of years ago. So much happening in Dallas, guys, but they're 2-5. They're still in first place of the NFC East. Right. There's some going on that's good, some going on that's not so great. So how can the Cowboys, Peter, right the ship?
Well, first off, I want to give credit to Jane Slater. That was the story that dictated all the national news shows last night in the sports world, and Mike McCarthy had to answer the questions, and he did so. But that's what coaching is. Like, this is when you make the money, not when you're drawing up the X's and O's for a 3rd or 4th down play, not when you're drawing up the scheme that's going to stop Jared Goff or Patrick Mahomes. This is when coaching comes into play. When you're 2-5 and the entire world is crashing in, what are you going to do? I look back at the New York Giants from a few years back, more than a decade ago, really. Eli's first Super Bowl season. They started the season off 0-2. They lost to the Cowboys in week 1, and then the second game they lost to the Packers. They basically gave up 90 points the first 2 weeks of the season. And everyone in New York was like, what is Coughlin doing? Why are we still with Coughlin? Let's make a change. The Giants had what they call a come-to-Jesus moment. Sorry, bringing religion into the show here, but a come-to-Jesus moment after that second loss, and you give up 90 points in 2 weeks. And they came together, and they said, you know what? It's going to be do or die, and it's going to be now. They went out the next week. They beat Washington in Washington, and they were on their way. What happened during that week? They looked at each other, and as Mike McCarthy says, I speak to them, I look at my men one-on-one, like, they talk. So no more group setting where it's, all right, here are the big platitudes. Like, go in there and talk to Zeke. Go in there and talk to Dalton. Go in there and talk with Everson Griffin. Go in there and talk one-on-one with these players. Say, why isn't this working? Cowboys right now have the worst defense in the league by a large margin, and they also lead the league in turnovers on offense. I know it's X's and O's, and we focus on the genius of the image that I remember from Monday night's loss was Cliff Kingsbury shoulder bumping with Kyler and all the Cardinals guys having a blast with their head coach. And then I see Mike McCarthy on the sideline looking like this. This has to be the moment. This has to be rock bottom. Because, yes, Kay, to your point, they're still 2-5. They're still in first place, and the playoffs are still a possibility. But use this week to connect with these players and find a way deep inside. Because, truthfully, that effort on Monday night, I'm not sure it was all there. And I don't know if this team can get any better if they don't have that moment right now.
I hear you on that, Strags. They definitely need a come-to-Jesus moment, whether it's the coach walking into the team meeting or the team just meeting with themselves and no coaches allowed. I remember my 3rd year with the Minnesota Vikings. We started off very similar to this, and it was a slow start. There were so many things going on. We had new coaches on the staff, players being traded away, and we just could not find our rhythm. Along with guys being banged up, we just struggled to make plays offensively. So what do? We let it fly. We dialed it up. And I'm not just talking on the offensive side of the ball. Of course, Andy Dalton, you got to do what Dak did, or at least try to match it, because he put up points and he put his team in position to win each game that he is playing in. But I'm talking about the defensive side of the ball, because this is the topic of conversation. The defense needs to be better. And I know it's easier said than done. What do they need to do, Nate? How about you dial it up on defense? Let's just blitz. You're saying, okay, Nate, here you go, X's and O's again. But they're not blitzing that much. They're like 20th in the league in blitzing. If you're playing this bad and you have athletes, guys that can get to the quarterback, how about you bring more and more and more pressure? They have 0 interceptions. That means quarterbacks are comfortable within the pocket. And when they do blitz, it's not like they're getting torched that much more. 4 touchdowns, giving up on blitzes. That means you have a chance of rattling quarterbacks, condensing the pocket, and making your defense, or putting your defense in position to make big plays. Will they face the Washington football team and the Philadelphia Eagles? 2 pretty good teams to get right on defense, right? That means you should bring the pressure and dial it up against these guys. Washington, who has struggled to find who their quarterback is going to be. The Philadelphia Eagles, who have offensive line issues, plain and simple. Defensively, Mike Nolan, those defensive stars that you have back on the field, dial up the blitz. What do you have to lose?
I hope that's the answer, Nate. Crank up the intensity on defense. Here we are in week 7. It's not exactly early anymore. I don't know if that hasn't occurred to them yet or they just can't do it. And, Peter, I love the 07 Giants as much as the next guy. I don't see Tom Coughlin and Eli Manning and Michael Strahan and those guys on this team. I don't know if they have that makeup. What I would say is, first, as much as I love Jane's report, I would say to the Cowboys, shut up. Why would you do that now? And if you want to leak how bad the coaching is, also leak that the $90 million running back should toughen up and hold on to the ball, because that's the reason you lost the Cardinals game. Defense was doing its thing, first 4 possessions. Zeke fumbled the ball all over the game. It was done. Leak that. And I would also say to Mike McCarthy, do you have a throwing chairs moment in you or something? Because you look completely miserable on the sideline, at the press conferences, joyless, miserable, ashen, and yet not really fiery. Put your foot down, man, because right now you look like a guy who got the Dallas Cowboys job because Aaron Rodgers won you a Super Bowl a decade ago, and you took a gap year to read analytics for dummies, and the Jones boys just ate it up. There are such things as one-and-dones in this league right now. The body language from the coach is terrible. Why would the team be any better? And Jerry, do what rich people do with their problems. Throw money at it. Go shopping. I remember a 3-5 Cowboys team not too long ago who went and got Amari Cooper at the deadline, and he absolutely blew up. There are players out there. Take a look at it. I don't think you can just sit here and be like, let's just try harder. Let's put some more. Let's have a meeting. I think you need actual new players. These guys aren't going to work. Maybe if you have to look at Earl Thomas again, if you have to look around the league at somebody like Justin Simmons in Denver who doesn't have a long-term deal and say, guys, I don't think we got it. I think we need new players. But for Jerry Jones and everybody to just sit there with their Bentley on the side of the road and just pray that it starts up again, it ain't happening. You got to call for help. You got to write a check because this thing's burning alive, and you got to put it out now.
A lot of takes on Twitter, Kyle. Let's say you're at my bar I used to bartend at, Nick's Pub in St. Louis. You're there with a Cowboys fan. They're all over the country, and he looks to you and said, they should trade for Ryan Fitzpatrick. We should go get him and, you know, spend some money, make some trades, make it happen. What would you tell that Cowboys fan?
Well, first of all, I'm going to order a round of mind erasers for my friends and I, which we're going to need if we trade for Ryan Fitzpatrick to the Cowboys. You drink from the straw, the bottom up. I bet you make a mean one, Kay. No, I would, and then the next bar stool, someone says, no, they got to trade for Sam Darnold. And then on the next bar stool, the guy's having an Irish car bomb, and he says, no, they got to tank for Trevor. All that stuff is nonsense. As we've said before, Andy Dalton is a serviceable quarterback that can win with this roster. I don't think bringing in this crazy knee-jerk quarterback is going to save this thing at all. I think they got to do what they got to do, and they have to fix the D.
And to your point, back in 2018, they were 3-5 to start the season. They went off and went 7-1 over the second half of the year and won that playoff game. They did it with Dak, though, not Andy Dalton. Let's bring in Tom Pelissero. Tom, appreciate having you here on the show bright and early this morning. We will not talk about bar, drinks, and behavior. It's a family show. But I do want to talk about Tua Tagovailoa. Big news about him taking the reins the rest of the way. What's the latest on the Dolphins' QB sitch?
Okay, I asked someone in Miami with knowledge of the decision-making process, why now? Why go to Tua when you're on a 2-game winning streak? You're 1 game back in the AFC East. Ryan Fitzpatrick's playing well. And the answer I got was, it's just time. You got to expect the unexpected when you're talking about Dolphins coach Brian Flores. He has made some unexpected personnel and lineup moves in the past. Remember, he was trained by Bill Belichick, so he's always going to look at what is the best thing to do for the culture and the program.